Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
2-2. Swing and a miss. Green down swinging, and Indiana survives a rocky ninth to move on to the winner's bracket. And a bouncing ball. Carey gobbles that up, takes it himself, and it's a 6-3 double play. Kazmar with the single, but Brockett rolls up a double play ball. Dylan Carey starts it. And Nebraska is out of the first run of the night for the Buckeyes. And he pumps that to right field. He finds green grass. Two more coming to the plate for the Buckeyes, and Mershon headed to second with an RBI double. Buckeyes on fire.
Pitch, big chopper, right side. Bellinger comes in to score. Cubs win the ball game. The Cubs win it.
1-2. Hit down the right field line. That's a base hit, and we're going home. Tucker scores. Jeremy Pena, the hero. Astros win it in the bottom of the 10th, 6-5.
124, 123 Boston, 50 seconds to go in overtime. Here's White driving the free throw line to the dotted line. Takes it out to Tatum. One dribble. Squares for three. Hits it! Jason Tatum with a huge triple with 42 seconds left to give Boston a two-possession lead.
Good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and for the first time this week, we're live in the same place.
What up?
On the Pillar Stereo
No, wait,
stage.
it is?
Yeah, because we were gone Monday.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And then I was at home yesterday because my neighborhood flooded.
Yeah, wasn't that crazy? What I saw, like, Shane, by the way, you know the 100% at 1 o'clock yesterday. The radar says 100% chance. I go, 100% chance?
Yeah.
Is that a thing?
Apparently.
Yeah.
Oh, come on, Shane.
It hit, but it wasn't as bad as I think we thought.
Not the afternoon, no. There were, although, I mean, it got worse in Iowa. They got some tornadoes in Iowa.
Yeah, I heard the sirens, but somebody told me it was Washington County.
No, there was a.
Is that not right?
I mean, Washington was in also, but there was a tornado warning for Douglas County yesterday.
Well, that was early, though, right?
No, there was another one in the afternoon. At least by my house, there was.
Yeah, well, man.
Yeah, that was like 12:45 or so.
Yeah, I missed that one.
Yeah, it was till about 1:30, and then it was a little dicey till about 2, and then it was kind of an all clear. But
yeah, the schools thing was crazy.
Yeah, so what happened with the schools?
I don't know. Like, I know the middle school lost power.
Okay.
They had a 2-hour late start, so it was kind of staggered. But then when Micah went there, they said go back home.
Okay.
Because they were closing at 11:30.
Yeah.
So then he came back home, and then Zoe stayed.
It just didn't have school at all?
No. So it was like, I get it. It was real-time communication. It wasn't as discombobulated as some other districts. So we kind of caught a break, but it was because it didn't happen until late.
Yeah, that's I don't envy people that are making those decisions.
Right?
That's
like
a lot of logistics involved.
Yeah, you're gonna be darned if you do, darned if you don't.
Yeah, and there's really no ideal situation. You can see, I don't know if you can see at the bottom of my car right now, a piece of the panel broke off when I was trying to get in here yesterday. The water,
did see that.
Yeah, the water, or because I didn't hit anything. It must have just been the water was moving fast.
The pressure.
Yeah, that it ripped apart of those. So I got to go in and see some folks about that. But we got a good show for you here today. Coming up, we're going to talk to Brian Christopherson like we do every Wednesday at 8 a.m. We're also going to talk to Mitch Sherman at 9 a.m. from The Athletic. And we got to give a shout out to our guy, Andy Kendi.
Holy smokes. I found out that story? I sat next to his wife at graduation.
Really?
Very next seat over.
Damn.
And so she had the fam, and I said, "Where's the big guy?"
Yeah.
And she said, "Oh, he's in the hospital."
Yeah.
I said, "What?" And so she explained the story. So for 2 weeks, when he was down on himself for being a baby,
yeah, he had something real going on.
Yeah, he had an infection that got in the bloodstream that started in his spine,
which is wild.
No, I don't think. And I looked at her and I was like, I don't think you know how dangerous. Oh, we know.
Yeah.
Like, he is fortunate because he was just gutting that thing.
Well, and he kept, at least a couple times on with us. So over the course of like a month, right? Because he's only on with us every other week. He's talking about how he feels like an old man and a baby because his back hurts and whatever. He just woke up one morning. He's like, I don't think I did anything. It's my back hurts.
Yeah, they were FaceTiming the graduation, so it was kind of cool.
Yeah.
He still got a chance to have a proud dad moment. And I remember I told her, I said, listen, I went through that. I was playing arena ball. I broke my nose. I didn't know it was broken at the time. I didn't feel great going home. I actually think I rode home with my parents because my dad, of course, came to wherever it was, Sioux City. Maybe we were playing the Bandits or Sioux Falls or somebody. I can't remember. And didn't feel very good. It's probably concussed.
Yeah.
But about 3 or 4 days later, man, I was like, I feel like trash.
Yeah.
Right. So whatever, my face hurt and I missed a couple of days of work. Couldn't get up. Went to, I can't remember how I did. I had to go see the doc. So I went to go see the ENT.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, it was a guy, Dr. Stem. He doesn't practice anymore, but
because you had your helmet pulled down onto your nose, right?
Which is why I eventually went to the visor.
Yeah.
But he's like, what are you doing tomorrow? I was like, hopefully getting some sleep. He's like, how about surgery? Then he went to go show his partner. So the broken nose turned into like this abscess.
Oof.
So I have 2 fiberglass stents in my nose. It was supposed to originally be outpatient surgery, but in the meantime, I was developing these headaches.
Yeah.
It was like on the top of my head. So they kept me for like 3 days over the 4th of July because I had to. They did like it was an emergency. It was probably at midnight.
Yeah.
Wheeled me down in the basement over at Methodist for a CT scan because they thought I had meningitis.
Yeah. If anything happens at midnight, it's emergency.
I was like
medical wise.
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. That stuff can get away from you in a hurry.
Yeah. Just being hard headed.
Yeah.
Like literally just being hard headed.
Like trying to gut something out.
Yep. And I was in big time trouble.
So if you got something wrong with you, go to the doctor. That's the moral of the story this morning.
I can't, but that's in his spine. You know how crucial that could have been?
Oh, that's scary. That's super scary. Like, I'm glad he's doing okay. Seemed like he put a post on Twitter that seems like he's going to be okay and make a full recovery. But,
yeah,
man, that's scary stuff.
100%.
So shout out to our guy, AK. Hope he's feeling better. Won't be joining us this morning. Hopefully he's back in action soon. But
how was your roof? I got to get up there on mine.
Roof's okay. It looks like from what I can see, we did lose a pretty big limb, but luckily it's in the yard. Well, so it like cracked, but it didn't fall yet. So I got to get a guy out there because I'm afraid it's going to like land on one of the dogs if they're out there, and so got to get that taken care of. But
Shane, did you tell me something wasn't something? You told me something was ominous about this year for weather. I thought you told me it was going to be did you tell me a harsh winter or was it the summer?
Might have been a harsh winter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was
maybe you meant spring, summer.
Apparently so.
You were off a couple seasons. That's all right.
Apparently, yes.
Well, he's on a permanent delay, so that kind of makes sense.
So instead of 7 seconds or 7 minutes, it's 7 months.
7 months.
7 months. Yeah, he's like, oh man,
that might be.
It was gonna be a rough.
I mean, that'd be pretty typical.
It's gonna be a rough November, December, and it's like, oh, actually, it's May, June, bud. That's all right.
Close enough.
We got it in the neighborhood.
I just liked watching him scroll through his radar yesterday.
Oh yeah, he's like trying to play meteorologist.
Yeah, better than me.
Oh,
they changed.
I can read colors too, so
I can't read.
I can read it, but they changed the app that I use, and I actually use a couple of different ones. But the main one that I use, they changed, so it's slightly different. So it reads differently, and they just did that within the last week. So it was a little. So I can't go to it right away and go, "Here's what's going to happen." You have to.
Yeah, Shane's a big percentages guy.
Yeah. I mean, you got to be a little bit of a weather dork to be using multiple weather apps.
Yeah, he's 47% here, about 60% here. He said, "Oh, at 1 o'clock, man, it's about 100%." So
I literally just use the weather app that comes on my phone, and anything besides that, I just text my mom. I'm like, "Mom,
yeah, I don't
what's
use.
going on?"
I should probably grow up. I don't use any.
I use 3 of them.
Use 3 different apps.
I call my mom.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
No, I do. I text my mom. I go, "Hey,"
or I ask Siri, but she's not accurate.
No, not helping at all.
I'm pretty she can do everything, but she's not real good.
Weather's not great.
Nah,
weather's not great.
Not good at all.
No, I text my mom. I just go, "Hey, what are we looking at for this time?" She's like, "You gonna be out? What part of town you gonna be in?" She like dissects it for me.
Oh, she got it.
Yeah, she's got it on lockdown. She's like, "Where are you guys at? What are you sirens go off yesterday. She's like, all right, get to your safe spots.
I didn't even hear him. Micah came up from the basement. He goes, "Are those sirens?" I was like, "Oh, sure."
Yeah, a little bit.
I think so.
Well, they're going off at like 6 a.m. while we're trying to get to the show yesterday.
I know.
I'm like, this isn't ideal. I don't know what's happening.
I was like, "Oh shoot, man! I think I can maybe get here."
Yeah.
It's 5 minutes. Yeah.
Well, there was not too like a mile east of you guys or where you live was fully flooded.
Oh, I know. So it's not even a mile. It's just 96th and Q.
Yeah. So
because my sister-in-law is right there, and she had Zoe.
Yeah,
and she's like, "Yeah, did you see all the water collecting?" I was like, "Nah, I didn't get out much."
didn't go exploring.
No, I ain't Dora. So I'm hoping, but I did see 5s this morning because I always watch the news at 4. The first 7, channel 7. Anyway, channel 7 at 4, and then they do one at 5, and then they do one at 6. So it's glad that it's nice and labeled. But yeah, I think I saw 5.something inches in the Omaha area, and that's a ton.
Well, especially because the first 4 of that happened in an hour.
Oh, yeah, it seemed like it.
Morning.
It seemed like it
because there was a little bit yesterday afternoon, but it wasn't nearly. The rain was all in like 90 minutes. It seemed like in the morning.
Yeah, and then so I think that then everybody's telling me all the things to worry about, like ticks and how to cut your grass and where bugs will migrate. And I'm like, gosh, I forgot that's a byproduct of damp.
Yeah, I did too.
I'm like, I have dogs.
Yeah, I need to make sure make sure my dogs are up on their tick treatment.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just little stuff like that.
It is. You don't even think about it. I
don't. Somebody said it in passing on the news, and I was like, wait, I kind of did the moonwalk.
Yeah,
like the back version of Michael Jackson on the wood floor.
Back that thing and up a little bit.
I hit the rewind on the news. I was like,
well, luckily yesterday, at least in the afternoon, the rain came through quickly.
Yeah.
And when you asked me about the radar, I was like, well, and I was thinking that it's all the way down in the bottom of Kansas right now. And it doesn't, it came up really fast within.
See, that's the kind of stuff I need to get better at.
The second storm was moving quick. Like it came through in a hurry.
That's the stuff I got to.
Which is probably for the best. Otherwise, those tornadoes that ended up in Iowa would have been closer to here.
Yeah. If it was like slower?
Yeah, if it was moving a little bit slower because it took a while to build up to the strength that they were anticipating. But it was a little bit of a rough day. Hope everybody's doing all right out there. Hope you guys are safe and sound and dry this morning. Hopefully
and flooding too.
Not as dry as Nebraska was yesterday.
Yeah, wow, that was depressing.
They got the midweeks hit them hard yesterday.
And it started with the slow bleed from Purdue. It kind of lulled you to like, this is gonna be bleh.
Yeah.
And surprise, surprise, Jackson Brockett takes the bump. When they went to the interview with Sears, I wanted to simply say, I can't hear obviously, but I'm like, why aren't you pitching?
Yeah.
Ask him that.
Yeah.
But that was didn't get a ton of help, and it was a slow bleed. And then all of a sudden, then we kind of scrubbed in the cut to get the alcohol in there, and it just like, let it burn.
Popped right open.
Yeah.
It's like those injuries we were talking about that you're like, oh, not a big deal. And then a few days later, or in this case, like an inning later, that thing popped wide open. Not great.
So did you realize that Ohio State had 6 2-out RBIs?
Not real time. No, I didn't.
It's crazy. I mean, they just couldn't stop the bleeding.
I almost was like, I just couldn't get off the field. I'm like thinking third downs, right? You got to get off the field on third down.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah.
Because Ohio State hit 440 or something like that for the game.
Which is, crazy in the first place.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, it's dumb. It's like the Indiana Pacers.
But the 6 RBIs with 2 outs, you're thinking, what in the world?
Unfortunately, they could have gone without all of them and still won by a pretty healthy margin.
Yeah.
Like that was a tough outing for Nebraska.
So 6 of 7 with runners on third and less than 2 outs.
Yeah, you got
6 of 7.
That's almost 100%, DB.
It's pretty good.
What is that, like 825? Somewhere in there?
860, 857.
857.
857.
That's not bad. That's a batting average you'll take just about any time.
If you want, nah, that's bad radio. I was going to explain how I got. I have lots of little mechanisms,
little tricks.
that I use. I think it's 857.
All right, we'll check it out. We'll check off air, see if we can math it up a little bit.
So I just and Twitter was not happy, right? It was like, what's going on with the pitching? Give me some dap on that one.
Got it. Nailed it.
What's going on with why aren't we making any pitching? I'm like, I don't know.
I don't have that answer for you.
I was confused though. I really was, because I didn't. I mean, was it just overthought? Because the one more day. So you would go.
You're talking about the one more day of rest for Sears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you go from Thursday to Wednesday versus his Thursday to Thursday. You didn't want to do the Tuesday, and you went with Brockett because Brockett didn't throw a ton on Sunday or Saturday,
which is less rest. Yeah. It almost seemed like
so the only thing I want, I may be getting in the weeds because it's clearly spilt milk now. I wonder, would you think at this point Brockett's arm is built up?
I wouldn't think so.
Because he hadn't thrown a ton, but I don't know about the bullpen sessions.
I don't either, but we both know that's different.
So listen, at what point did you think they conceded?
I don't know what did it get to, like, it was 11-0 in the fourth.
Yeah. And it was a wrap then, probably.
Yeah, it was definitely a wrap by then.
Because you're thinking you're either hoping for the run rule, or you're not. You're not gonna burn through your arms.
Yeah, you're not gonna burn through bullpen. I don't. It was probably before it got to 11. Like, there was a sense of inevitability after a certain point. It was.
Hey, what movie was that, Shane?
What, Sense and Sensibility?
No, when he said it's inevitable.
Oh, that's Endgame, Avengers.
Yeah.
It's Thanos.
Yeah, that's it.
I am inevitable.
Yeah, I knew I'd heard that before.
I love that movie.
They're incredible.
That was Infinity War. That wasn't Endgame, though, was it?
He says it multiple times. Yeah, but
Infinity War's better.
Oh, I don't know.
They got their tail whooped. Why would you ride with that?
Because it was the movie that made me stop reading comic books. The actual comic books had a profound effect on me.
Listen, my man, you just bought 60 some odd comic books a month ago.
I know. I
made you stop reading.
Not bought. They were free.
60 some odd comics.
It did for like 20 years, and then I had to slowly come back. And actually, it was probably that movie that made me get back into comic books.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there was it was. So I'm watching. I think it was at 5-0, and I'm like, okay, it's still early. They can ship at this thing. So somewhere between 5 and I think there was a spot like at 9 where I was like, oh, they need to not waste arms here.
Did you see when it was 11-0 and Nebraska hit the home run and be like, maybe that's the spark? I'm like, huh?
Out of your minds.
Huh?
Out of your minds. I don't think people do people understand how improbable that is?
Spark.
That's fine.
Well, you did see some weird comebacks yesterday.
Not 11.
I know. I know. I understand. I was watching. Who was I watching before that? Was it UTSA and it was somebody in the AAC?
I don't know. You're a junkie though.
I am, and it was 5-1. No, I think it was UTSA. And they came back and made it no, it wasn't UTSA. They played Rio Grande. I can't remember. But then they made it 5-5, pushed it to extras, and then it was 9-5. But I was looked improbable for a second. And I'm fresh off of watching Major League Baseball too, where I watched the Yankees blow a 4-run lead the day before. Somebody was up 5-0 again, and the Angels scored 7.
I'll entertain things up to about 4 to 6
college baseball.
runs.
Did you see it in the Bama? The Bama game got out of hand.
No, I did not see that one.
That was early in the day.
Yeah,
I just liked watching other teams play baseball when it's sunny. We'll get it today because Nebraska's got to bounce back, man. That rubber band effect better be real.
They've got Purdue at 7:00 tonight at the Chuck. They got to.
It's going to be an interesting day of baseball.
We just talked about Ben yesterday, right? Where it's like, hey, they're in, but don't go 2 in the queue, right? That's not.
I know.
It's not what we're trying to do here.
No, and
What's happening?
I don't know, Coach. I think I was a little shell shocked.
Yeah, I was too. It got away in a hurry after the initial, and you're just like, how did that happen? And then you just kind of,
it's the lowlights.
You do have to start regrouping for the next day
because they didn't kick it around.
No, they just couldn't get anybody out.
I was really concerned about some of the playing balls in the air because Indiana and Purdue had a mess of a time.
Yeah,
fielding balls in the air, and I was like, is it because of the drizzle? Or is it because of the wind? And it was probably a little bit of both, but
I think the wind was worse than we realized.
It must have been.
Yeah.
It must have been.
Yeah. I think there was,
because it was playing some tricks out there.
Yeah, I think there were some spots, especially when you get into those stadiums and you kind of get it starts to swirl around in there a little bit. I think it was probably a little bit worse than we realized. But yeah, they're gonna have to figure something out today, and hopefully Sears, wins Big Ten Pitcher of the Year and can get things on the right track for them. But
I felt like they were keeping the awards a secret.
Yeah, because they were supposed to announce them tomorrow morning.
I was like, what's going on?
Or yesterday morning.
And then it's like, as the games are rolling, it's like.
Yeah, they announced them in the middle.
Yeah, I'm like.
It was odd timing for sure.
I'm pretty sure you told that guy. Can we just make it public?
Also, why couldn't they announce them during the weather delays?
I don't know, but if you watch broadcasts, they were doing a lot of pre-roll stuff, pre-done stuff. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, I don't understand. You could still run the pre-roll stuff during the games if you want to.
Yeah.
And announce it on social media before that.
How about how quickly the lights got turned out on Purdue? They're just kind of sailing along 1-0, and then, man, Indiana can hit.
Yeah, well, that's what Ben was talking about yesterday. They can.
And in Illinois, too, I think is who he was talking about. But Indiana can flat out break.
Well, no, because I asked him about – he was talking about Illinois also, but I asked him about on Nebraska's half the bracket. And he goes, Indiana can just smash.
They rake.
And, I mean, we may not even have to worry about Indiana.
Hey now.
Well, you got a long way before they face Indiana.
Yeah.
You got to win at least 2 games before you get to Indiana.
I'm going to go watch Iowa and Michigan, too.
Yeah.
Because – Iowa's got to figure out a way to.
I can't. Runs.
Well, that and I said this to Ben yesterday. I can't believe they're playing to get in to the postseason.
Mm-hmm. They're playing for their lives. Everybody but Nebraska is. Ironically enough.
Nah, I'm gonna be straight up. They got sweet uniforms.
Everybody.
Iowa.
Yes.
Yeah, they do.
They got some sweet.
Just
uniforms.
Full disclosure here: the things that you can do with black and yellow.
I know
and not to lean into your Steelers crap.
No, lean
all You just keep that over there.
Tomlin had a great presser yesterday
because they don't
all the way in.
They don't do anything cool with their uniforms. Okay. They just stay basic.
A lot of hate going on.
Not hating. They just stay super basic.
He said basic AF.
Yeah, they're just
wrong with this, dude.
They're just over here in their black and yellow. They could do super cool stuff. Instead, they're just ordering their pumpkin spice lattes like everybody else, and they could do some really cool stuff with those color schemes, and they don't. They're just like, hey, we're going to stick with everything we've done for the last 100 years.
Yeah.
That's fine. But it's
Iowa football doesn't do it.
No, you're right.
Hayden Fry was the catalyst, and then Coach Ferentz, being a Steelers fan, picked up on it. The scheme, I mean, we talked about. That's basically all we talked about.
It's not like you're right though, Shane. It's not like Iowa does anything super cool with their uniforms either. It's another waste opportunity. But
they're all black is sweet.
For football?
Yeah.
It's all right. You could do cooler stuff. That's all I'm saying.
Jeez.
You could do some cool stuff with black and yellow.
I'm not a designer. I just go with what I see. I'm not a one-up. Oh, could I do better? I don't know. I suppose I could.
I think they could do better. See, that's why my suit game's so strong. Because I'm always like, could I do better?
Could I do better?
Can I do a little better? What can I do here?
Next level kind of guy.
Do I need a pocket square? Yeah, I think I do.
Player 1.
Do we need cufflinks? Yeah, I think we do. See, you gotta keep upgrading. STB, I'm Ravi. Lulla. We'll be back with more Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here from the Pillar Exterior stage, where we are trying to get things back into our little groove. I think that's the longest we had gone without not being in the same room since February.
Yeah, right.
But so it's 4 days, you know, we got a little DB withdrawals. We're okay, though. We're doing all right.
I don't know what to do.
We're doing all right, though. You know what? The NFL finally decided to do something that they should have been doing for a while.
Oh, boy.
What?
I'm still heated about the pumpkin spice thing. Like, nothing says pumpkin spice like not the Pittsburgh Steelers.
No, but their uniforms are basic.
Yeah,
that's all I was doing there.
Yeah, I know. I understand.
You know, although you know your new quarterback likes a little pumpkin spice latte. You know he does.
Which one? We got two. I don't know if you heard.
I think we know who the starter is because they told us.
Yeah. You know,
they said, hey, Justin Fields is the backup.
I want you to go and listen to Coach Tomlin's presser yesterday after camp.
I did not listen to the presser after camp.
It's fantastic.
Did he say that Russell Wilson's not the starter?
No.
Well, then it can't be that good. I mean,
yeah.
There's you guys listen. Yeah. You can like everything else about that team, which I think you do.
I do.
You still got a problem.
I need to fix the secondary a little bit, but I think they got a chance to be okay.
I think we got a problem at quarterback. That's all I'm saying.
Who's we? You stay on your own side of the left coast.
No, it was more of a general we, not like the royal we. Not me personally.
Yeah. Well,
I don't have any interest. I mean, Pittsburgh can be bad. Doesn't hurt me at all.
Oh, no, because we don't even see you guys this year, so you're all right.
Yeah, see, it's fine. No, I wouldn't worry about it. No, I would like them to be good.
We get the NFC least.
I would like them to be good because I think that makes for a happier DB, which is, what we're here for.
I'm one of those guys that tries not to let that
affect your emotions.
Yeah. It's hard.
I try not to, I give myself kind of the game time, right? And then an hour. But after that, it's it doesn't get to affect me the rest of the day. I try and wash it out. I'll start distracting myself with other stuff. Nebraska football is the hardest one, right? Because it's you're surrounded by it, and it's a lot of what we do and all that, right? Even more so for you, obviously, because you're on the calls. So I try and flush it pretty quick, at least the emotions of it. But that can be tricky.
I tell you, after the Iowa game last year where I walked to the first floor.
No, I don't think you did.
Yeah, I took the stairs.
Did you?
Oh, yeah.
Didn't want to be around anybody?
I just needed some time to process what I just saw.
How with the ball, with 30 seconds left, somehow they lost that game?
Man.
Hard to do.
Yes.
Hard to do.
It's very, very hard to do.
Which is, I know we talk about this a lot, but which is why I don't think it's that hard to flip half of those games. Because the way they've lost them is harder than winning them.
Yeah.
Legitimately more difficult to do the things they had to do to lose all of those games.
Easier or harder than what the Pacers did last night?
I think Halliburton might have bet on somebody else.
Didn't it come across like they were on the take?
A little bit. It was.
And I get it. They only led for what?
A minute or two?
Yeah, not a ton. Probably
halfway through the fourth.
Probably 4 or 5 minutes, I bet.
It was halfway through the fourth.
But it was unbelievable how bad they were down the stretch. I couldn't just.
I mean, you talk about Jamal Murray just losing the ball.
So this is a thing.
Mm-hmm.
How often do I talk about the ups and downs of Tyrese Halliburton?
Mm-hmm.
All the time it comes up because I watch so much basketball.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, sometimes he does things where you're like,
what's happening?
Why? Why?
Is he like the guard version of Cat a little bit?
Yeah, but at least Halliburton acts like it's important to him.
Fair. But in terms of just
Cat kind of comes across as disinterested.
Super aloof.
And I gave him a year,
a
couple years ago after he lost his mom.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, because I met him in Vegas and he looked much different. I took some pictures, but he just doesn't seem like he's all in. At least Halliburton is emotional.
Yeah.
Although when he inexplicably just kind of ran himself out of bounds.
That was odd.
And he was just like, dang.
Shoot.
Oh,
I wish that had gone different.
Shucks.
Oh no.
But we were on the verge of, and I didn't understand Twitter too, because they kept giving me the Jason Tatum fire emojis.
Well, yeah, our boy Padilla hit me up.
When he missed the couple of bunnies and then the putback, I was like, oh, is he having a moment?
Yeah.
Or the three that could have taken the lead.
Yeah. That
he missed. But then he comes down and he gets kind of the scoop and one off the little tricky putback. But
notice when he hit the three, it was after they were already up.
What did young Jacob say?
He goes, I don't know. He said something about Tatum. I don't remember what exactly he said. But
is he on you because he knows you don't think Tatum's clutch?
I don't even know if clutch is the word. Because Robert Horry was clutch, but he's not that guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Tatum might have clutch moments.
That's why I never. So that's why I never understood the media's criticism of Tatum. They want him to be somebody he's not.
That's my thing. That he's not who people are trying to tell me.
Well, he's not going to be Kobe because he's not as good as Kobe. He's not going to be Jordan. He's not as good as Jordan.
No, he's not even going to be KD.
No. I mean, you're talking, KD's arguably.
He's in that neighborhood, but I also have some issues with KD that other people don't have.
Again, my knock on KD is the same today as it was when I started doing radio. He's the guy that, as the player of the year, couldn't get Texas past the Sweet 16.
Yeah, and he's the guy that Has only
and that
ever,
was a good basketball team.
Yeah, you had like what? DJ Augustine was on that
It's a
team.
good basketball.
You had multiple
team.
NBA guys on there. And then everybody hates on Rick Barnes, and it's like, well, what was he supposed to do there?
Yeah.
I also listen, I know that people love KD and he's super talented and whatever. I think the way in which his teams have constantly fallen apart matters. The people that he chooses to surround himself matter. The fact that he's never happy matters. And if you look at it, at the end of the day, his career is going to end with the only winning he ever did was with Steph Curry.
Did you think that, because I didn't like that part in the broadcast where they said, Missoula isn't going to get enough credit for the inbounds play. There was time. You can take foul. You can foul away from the ball. There was plenty of time for Indiana to foul if they wanted to foul.
Yeah,
right?
They didn't want to foul. They didn't want to foul. That's it. That's the whole thing. They didn't want to foul up 3. You're talking about up 3, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't want to foul up 3. That's it. Some people don't want to. And listen, as a basketball coach, foul up 3. As a fan, don't foul up 3.
I just think with, what was it, 5 seconds?
Yeah, 5.7 when the shot went through.
Foul.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Like I said, as like a strategic thought, you have to foul there.
Although in the NBA where you could advance the ball, and I think they did they had a timeout left, right?
Yes, I think so.
So that may change my thinking. But I didn't want to I didn't want to go all Jackson Brockett.
Just
foul.
Just foul.
I mean,
Just foul.
I just couldn't believe Indiana had 21 turnovers.
Yeah, there was also an
listen,
enormous free throw discrepancy.
Yeah, so halfway through the fourth, that was their third free throw that they made down the stretch.
Yeah, it was like 26 to 4.
I think there were
at some
36 turnovers in the game.
Yeah,
36.
You're in the neighborhood.
I guarantee I'm
check.
within 1 or 2.
I thought it might have been 38, but I'm checking.
21 and 14 or 21 and 15.
We're looking right
Talk
here.
to me. Talk to me, Goose.
21 for Indiana.
I knew that because of my number.
And 14 for
Let's go.
Boston. 35.
Let's go.
There we go.
Let's go. Shane, Ravi messed up my computer.
What'd I do?
Nothing. I just have to.
Oh, okay. I was like, I don't think I did anything.
What's happening?
Nobody knows, Shane. Yeah, it was. There was some odd things in that game. Some oddly
I just don't get.
moments.
I just don't get how you're like comfortable with the Celtics.
I don't either. I was seeing on Twitter, everybody was seemingly acting like they were having a cakewalk to the finals, which I get that the East is bad. But were we not watching an overtime game last night that they took a pretty miraculous 3 to even get to overtime?
You start out 12-0, which is nothing in the NBA, right?
Yeah.
And you're leading for 80% of that. I don't think the Celtics Pacers took the lead until halfway through the fourth.
Yeah, it was about halfway through the fourth.
Right? And I'm like, how'd we get there?
I don't know. I'm not impressed with Boston though.
I just don't know how. I mean, we're talking about the rubber band effect for Nebraska. I mean, if you're Indiana, how do you come back from that one?
It's easy. You say we turned the ball over 21 times. They got shot 20 more free throws than we did.
I still want to know who Halliburton is. I ask all the experts.
We made idiotic decisions with the ball down the stretch, and we still got them to overtime. That's how you bounce back.
You remember, he had a 4-game stretch where he had 50 assists and 1 turnover.
Yeah.
Remember those days?
Yeah. Seems like a long time ago now.
That was fun.
More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Baseball pass received by Siakam. Sends it over to Halliburton. Turns for three. In and out. Rebound contested. Saved by Brown. 1 second to go. And that's it. Game one goes to the Celtics. An improbable late regulation comeback. And Boston hangs on to win in overtime. 133 to 128.
Wrapping up hour number one here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. I like how I brought up the NFL last segment, and then somehow we ended up talking about Celtics, Boston, and didn't even get to the NFL. I don't even know how that happened. Sometimes I sit here, I'm like, how do we get here?
I don't know.
We did have a little bit of news from the NFL that came through yesterday, which I think a lot of people are happy. I'm happy about it. They're going to try out the digital down and distance measuring during the preseason this year.
Because it's so hard to spot a football.
Well, you would think so, or you would think not, but a lot of people are really bad at it. And by a lot of people, I mean people who are paid professionally to do it are really bad at it. And here's the funniest thing that I heard that I read about from the story. I believe it was on CBS Sports. They got a statement from the league, or a leak from the league. I don't know if it was an actual statement because I don't think it's officially been reported yet, but sources. They said, before the league fully implements it for the full season, it wants to make sure the system works well enough to be trusted. As if a bunch of middle-aged dudes just eyeballing it is a system that's to be trusted currently. because that's the current system, is a bunch of dudes who just kind of guess.
And a few ladies, because one in particular happens to be Michael Severe's favorite because he feels like she always gets New Orleans Saints games.
Yeah, I'm using.
You ever felt like that? Oh, man, we got this crew again. I know coaches feel like that.
I'm using dudes as like a gender neutral term.
It is 2024.
Yeah, dudes, bros, whatever.
Whatever.
When I say guys, I don't mean like guys.
Okay,
I just mean,
but you can't be a bros guy though, because you do a lot of questionable things that make me question not wanting to be next to you. But if you start saying bros,
bruh, what about bruh?
No, I'm out. Wait, you're truly 13, right? Like Micah has Zoe saying that.
That would be hilarious. Just Zoe rocking around calling people bruh.
Yeah, I felt bad because it was in front of Westside's administration, but told Adada as the assistant principal, and I was walking her at graduation, and she said something, and I was like, I'll punch you dead square in your throat. And he was like, that's a little harsh.
Metaphorically.
Yeah. I was like, not really. I just tilt her head back and like thump it. Right.
Hypothetically.
Dude,
that hurts.
No, I know.
It's like,
like you swallowed sand.
Yeah.
It's kind of my thing.
What, swallowing sand? Don't do that. That's weird.
Like if I was gonna revisit days of old, like that's my thing. I'm gonna tilt the head back and it's right under the chin.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. That doesn't feel good at all.
Yep. Keep it tucked.
Nobody wants to get punched in the neck.
But anyway, just having a moment.
I'm just saying, why is this taking so long?
So I felt like I've had this discussion on social media for years, and everybody inevitably
goes to tennis.
Nope. Oh. They'll come back and tell, and it's not me as a proponent. I'm usually having this conversation. It's weird. It's usually with Severe.
Oh, Severe hates the chain gang.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
And there's a guy or two that will always tell him that whatever he wants to put in the ball or whatever is not that easy. And then he'll go in depth to explain it. This has probably happened once a year for the last 5 years. So I don't know. I mean, are the optics good? Like you just think that the yellow first down line isn't really a thing?
No, it's not accurate because they're not allowed to use the actual measuring sticks, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm just saying, if you can do it in tennis, you can do it in volleyball. And I get there's other variables in football, but they've been doing it in those sports for a while now. Tennis, they've been doing it for like 15 years. This is not a new technology in tennis. You're telling me you can't take whatever obstacles you have in football in the last 15 years and figure it out?
Could we get to the moon?
Because, about 60 years ago.
Oh, allegedly.
Don't start with me. I'll sick my uncle on you. Cam Lulla doesn't play.
So we did land on the moon?
Look him up. He's smarter than all of us. Combined, probably. You could have like 4 doctors in a room, and he's got more degrees than everybody combined.
Nice.
Just ridiculous, dude. But no, there's like
it's ridiculous.
They already put technology into the ball, like in other sports and not like in practice situations, right? They put technology into the ball in basketball. They do it in football because they want to track things in a way.
So how does this offset just bad spotting, right? Like at the
that's
end
what you're trying to fix, right?
At the end of a run,
you're
like, golly, that's not a good spot.
Yeah.
Or that was a favorable spot.
So my guess is it's going to be a combination
because I work with a guy who is so good at that real time, it's sick.
Yeah.
Greg can say, I thought that was about the 37.5-yard line. That looks like they put that up closer to the 38.
Yeah.
I'm like,
you're talking about 1.5 foot, and you're 500 feet away.
I'm just like, what?
And he nails it.
Oh, 100%. He's a big spot guy.
Yeah.
Like it drives him up the wall.
I'm imagining you're using, because unless you're having the players wear technology also, so you can tell where knees are down or guys are out of bounds or whatever.
So are we talking like how they make video games, like those little?
theoretically, or maybe they're running like the catapult system or whatever, where you're tracking things, or I don't know exactly. But my guess is they're not doing that. My guess is they're going to use a combination of video with the player and then technology with the ball. So they'll stop it at a certain point and the ball will say, hey, it's right there.
When they make it official,
yeah,
we'll get
in the weeds on it.
Yeah, because I do think
on how it works.
I do think it's important, though.
I agree. I want to know how it works.
Yeah, but you realize we still can't even figure out what a catch is.
Yeah, that's also a problem.
So, and don't even get me started.
It's not like the NFL has been real on top of things.
Pittsburgh, New England, Jesse James, tight end.
Well, and this is something they've been doing.
Down
I mean,
to one.
They've had
Jesse James, the outlaw.
No, from Penn State.
Oh, well, might
tight
be
end at Pittsburgh.
Might be an outlaw.
Speaking of which,
yeah,
did you catch the articles?
The renderings of the Penn State deal?
No, not the $700 million facility. The doctor that testified that James Franklin was meddlesome in medical decisions.
Yeah, that could get you fired.
It flew under the. I think it was in Blue Nation.
Yeah, that can get you fired.
I was like, this isn't a story? Is this getting buried?
It seems like it was getting buried because I'll be honest, I only heard about it in passing.
Yeah, so it's like former Penn State player and doctors say James Franklin pushed to cut suicidal player among other medical meddling.
Yeah.
And then the ongoing trial with ex-team doctor takes a bizarre turn. It's in Basic Blues Nation.
Yeah. And
so I was looking at it last night. I was like, how is this not a thing?
It's what Bill Cuba got fired over at Illinois.
100%.
Yeah. It's a fireable offense. Messing with medical decisions is a fireable offense.
Yeah, it said the case took a turn towards weird on Tuesday morning as Penn State's contract with Nike came under scrutiny. Lynch's lawyer argued that Nike could fine the school for unauthorized ankle spatting, ankle taping, and cover the brand's logos on players' shoe. This could be viewed as a breach of contract and restricting the logo. However, the defense stated that they countered with photos of Christian Hackenberg, Saquon Barkley, these guys. And Penn State Associate AD for the Finance and Business Operations testified that spatting was by the team's medical professionals or athletic trainers. I mean, the thing that got it started was when they asked Franklin about it, or this was some years ago, he basically poo-pooed it like it was cosmetic. And so that kind of got the thing going. And then that James Franklin has had his hand in medically. And I got the whole thing started.
Because the trial has nothing to do with that, really, right?
No,
that's not what it's about. It's Nike and Penn State, isn't it? Yeah. So it's a totally unrelated topic that this sort of just got, and I don't know if that's why it sort of went under the radar that this got shoehorned into. But it's super weird that A, nobody's really talking about it, and B,
because he ended up firing Dr. Lynch. He ended up firing the Dr. Franklin.
Yeah. So he could be bringing a wrongful termination suit.
Yeah, but isn't it hard? It's so weird. I watch so much television. It's it looks like he has an axe degree, and so automatically it's like he's a discredited witness. But I don't know how it works in real life. But
yeah, I mean, there's things that generally in labor law, there's things that you specifically can, very specific instances in which you can do wrongful termination suits in. And one of them is retaliation, which is, I imagine, what this would fall under if Franklin didn't like the medical decisions that the doctor was making.
Former Penn State doctor claimed in court on Tuesday.
Yeah, so yesterday.
That James Franklin had pressured Nittany Lions medical staff into disqualifying a player who had attempted suicide. This was just one of the examples used by Dr. Pete Seidenberg in his testimony of Franklin's multiple attempts to interfere with medical decisions regarding players' health. Seidenberg's testimony is part of the ongoing lawsuit filed by Dr. Scott Lynch, who claims he was fired from his role with Penn State Athletics due to his repeated clashes with the Nittany Lions football head coach over medical decisions.
Sounds like there is a wrongful termination already going on there. Would
Penn State be looking for a way to get out from underneath that?
Well, that's the kind of thing that I was thinking too. I was like, listen, if they're not totally happy, then they can get out of that enormous contracts that they keep giving him.
It is a big year for them too.
Coming up next, we got Brian Christopherson, Husker 24/7 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio. Here is Husker 24/7 senior writer, Brian Christopherson.
Yeah, it'll be a little bit of a circus act.
Brian Christopherson.
Well, I mean, that's pretty interesting.
Brian Christopherson.
I kind of enjoy that.
Here is Brian Christopherson.
Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. And we are joined now by Brian Christopherson from Husker 24/7. BC, what's going on, man?
Not a lot. How are you guys doing?
I'm good.
Hanging in there.
We got off to a little bit of a rocky start. I was gone on Monday. Then we had the weather today. This is our first day kind of settling back in, man. So it has been a heck of a whirlwind. How about you?
I'm a little sleepy myself, but this is the moment we find it, guys. This is the moment we turn that switch and get some things done. So let's go.
I know. It's like my kid graduated at 2 on Sunday and he was gone by 8:30 on Monday. I was like, what is going on? But I'm digging deep, BC. I'm all in. I feel like I'm checked back in.
What's happening?
I know. That's your fault, coach. Jeez. BC, when you're taking yes. It sounded just like Zoe. Zoe. Yes.
Yes.
I'm here.
What are you going to make of kind of this? Because you guys do this all the time on the site, right? You follow recruiting, you know the numbers, you know the names. At what point did you stop being disinterested in how many players are on Nebraska's roster?
I don't know. I've never worried too much about if they had like 135 or 145. I've never been too caught up in that. The thing that's changed for me in the last year or two is the level of intrigue I have in the 85-man scholarship chart. I'll be honest, like the last year or so, I've kind of been like, I know there's NIL situations for certain guys. There's a way, for some walk-ons maybe to be honored in that way. And I've just stopped being just micro-focused on that and like, how do you get to that number? So that's probably the one thing that has changed in recent years. All the other stuff, I've never been a person who's like, oh, they got 147 over there, how do they make that work, sort of thing. I've just sort of said whatever size roster they want to have and they feel like they can be competitive with it and get good eyes on people, and if they have the space for it, I was always like, whatever, that was kind of my take with it.
So what do you think, or who do you think was the catalyst to start talking about the discussion of roster limits? Is this just nudge, nudge, wink, wink happened to be about the same time as we look at conference and revenue sharing?
Yeah, well, yeah, I wonder if there's some connection to that. That could be possible. And then, of course, you got headlines out there that are like, okay, what's the future of the walk-on in college football? Now, that is a subject I care passionately about. I think most Nebraskans do, having seen the type of players that have come up that way. Even the guys who don't necessarily always, make it in the, primary roles, still have been pretty key behind the scenes, I think, about sort of affecting culture and all that. So like I was writing about like Derek Wacker from like UTAN, this weekend, who won the Class C discus, and you hear his story, and, he's a diehard Husker, going to every game or either watching it at his grandparents' house his whole life. It's guys like those that, they're a big part of the pulse of Husker football. So I'll always get defensive about those guys and hope there's a good room for players like that. Maybe that is within reason of getting it down to 110 or 115 or whatever it may be in this new era of college football. But I just hope people outside of our bubble don't make silly changes that have consequences they're not thinking about with walk-on stuff and things of that nature.
BZ, don't you think, though, I mean, as long as there's been rules in college football, people have sort of found ways around them. Like, don't you think they'll just start finding loopholes? And, I mean, I don't know. The first thing that came to my mind is like, oh, maybe they'll bring back JV teams and it doesn't count towards your roster number for the real team.
I actually wouldn't mind that, but a lot of schools probably couldn't afford it.
Right, but a lot of schools can't afford the direction this thing's going anyway, right? Mm-hmm. And it wouldn't be a mandatory thing. I don't know. Like, don't you think they're going to find ways around the rules, whatever they are that are put in place?
I'm not of the thought there's going to be just like, hey, there's no more walk-ons. No, I don't think that's just going to happen. And yeah, I agree with you. There's always, it feels like, some way to, figure a way around whatever they've come up with. I don't even like that discussion's in the air though, but it's a subject that hits close to home with the walk-on players here. And then you see those type of guys, like Trent Euler, Rowdy Bauer, Derek Wacker. Those guys are that's Husker football and a big part of it to me. Those type of players, through the generation. So whatever it takes to keep that as a central part of things, that is something that I just hope happens. Always does.
Potentially the first domino hits with the Big 12 conference trying to get some tentative numbers in order for revenue sharing. Are you surprised it's moved this fast?
Not really. I feel like
I just want to know why they didn't do this first.
Yeah, I don't know. Some of it's beyond my brain level. You probably know that, Damon. But I just think there's a lot of people like in there's some desperate programs out there looking at their money situation right now and some of the line items they have. I'm sure of that. Nebraska is in a better situation than most. Troy Dannon spoke on that last week. Everybody who's been in that chair has always said that, and I believe it. It's a program that's not in debt like some other places, and but you always have to be. You have to have somebody in that office now that is not just thinking about tomorrow and what tomorrow is going to bring, but what's like tomorrow 500 tomorrows from now bring, or more than that, because it's just so you got to be so forward thinking. And even when Troy Dan was talking about the stadium last week and the decisions you have to make there, you do have to weigh like, okay, where can we get monetary gain some revenue here from certain areas right now, because there could be that $20 million plus line item in the budget. And so you have to have people who are thinking about that. So I think there's people in other programs who they realize that's right on their doorstep right now. And there's certain acts they're going to have to take immediately to probably make it happen.
We're talking with Brian Christopherson, Husker 24/7. BC, staying on the stadium for a second here. As we, you talked about kind of the financial viability of football programs being more and more of a factor in decision-making moving forward. And we saw that with the decisions on what to do with the stadium. Obviously, this is a temporary or a short-term fix that you're talking about. So if you are thinking about not just 1 or 2 years from now, but long-term financial viability for Nebraska football, like in your mind, what does that look like for the stadium? Is it trying to kind of build something, whether it's in the existing structure or somewhere else, to create additional revenue, or what does that look like in your brain?
It looks like not taking on more than you can chew. Like, I like that Dannon, he just needs some time with it. Like, he needs to know, for instance, with South Stadium, is that something that you could do in phases in any way, where you can, obviously you want to make improvements there over time. But is this the moment, for instance, where you want to have a hole in your stadium, and bring down your capacity to low 60,000s and all that, where you've had these loyal ticket holders and, 20, however many thousand are out of seats for a while you fix up an entire side of the stadium? And also just I like that he brings up like the competitive part of that, like it's a wind tunnel around that stadium, and then you got an end that's open, and it's you got to deal with that. There's all sorts of consequences to things like that. And I just like, it seems like he's being prudent right now about listening to people, not acting like what you don't know, just trying to listen to the people who have really been on this project for a while, get their best advice, and then go at it with a diligent pace. Like, the whole South Stadium does not have to come down in January. It didn't have to, and this isn't the point probably where that's the proper thing to do. And I like that they're just taking a step back from that. I don't know, to your question, all the ways that you can monetize. I assume over time that, the alcohol sales thing is obviously one piece of the puzzle that's always been talked about. And I think that's coming sooner than later. I sort of think we're maybe like a year or two away from that being real. But other than that, you just got to constantly be brainstorming. Okay, how's a way we can gain a little here and still be fair to our fans in the process.
BC, so you're talking about being prudent, and I remember it was cool, right? Remember when we would ask, "Hey, did you get a survey? Did you get a survey? What'd you say on your survey? What'd you say?"
Mm-hmm.
So they tried to do their due diligence, and Trev did with trying to get a lay of the land. Do you feel as though that information, given what's come out since the change of plans, the rechanging of plans, the changing of an athletic director, do you think that information would be similar if those things were filled out today? Could Dannon go back and look at this data and say, okay, I could see 2 years removed, or 2 or 3 years removed, how this data is still beneficial, knowing that people are more privy to hard numbers?
Yeah, there might be a thing or two that's changed. I do think the thing that would be constant on there is the amenities and just like the fan saying, okay, you're giving me a choice to say what's one or two things that could make my experience better. And certainly like concessions and some of the bathroom situations, that would be something a lot of people would still bring up. But I also think Nebraska fans, at the end of the day, they want to win more than anything. Like, and they're gonna. I do think there's a high percentage in this fan base that understand. Okay, if you give me a good reason why we're going to push back doing something right now, and it helps the athletic department financially, and it can put you guys in a better position to win. That's what I care about most. And I'm of the mind, if they got this thing humming and you're winning 9-10 games again, I don't think we talk about all those things quite as much. Like we use it. It ends up being filler because of the struggles that have happened. And it's like, oh, wouldn't it be nice if this were better while watching a crappy football game? Well, I think if people were watching really quality football and feeling good about the product, all that stuff sort of goes to the back seat. I'm not saying you forget about it. I'm not saying it doesn't matter. Of course it does. I'm just saying the biggest part of this all is winning. And I think fans are, whenever they fill out a survey or whenever they're thinking about it, that would always be the most important thing to them. If they're told this might take a couple years because we need this financially and this can help us, and it's that is presented in a way that is palatable and easy to understand, I think a lot of fans will usually get behind that stuff.
BC, aren't they also kind of making a bet that, like, hey, if they win 8 or 9 games over the next couple years, that fundraising is just going to be way easier for whatever they do decide to end up putting into place? Like, those phone calls get a lot easier when you're not coming off of a 7-year bowl drought, right?
I would think so.
A lot easier for Penn State to wrangle in $700 million, right?
Right. Yeah. Like, I mean, it's
exactly.
They're kind of placing an enormous bet that over the next 2 years, Nebraska is going to win some games.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just I think it's the right move. I mean, you just have to put something before the people. If you're going to ask for money, at some point you have to show, like, this thing's heading in the right direction. This is a product you can be proud of and all that. So I think that's the smart way to do it. I like the fact that Dannon, he's not like in a hurry at this moment to go fundraise more for it before they actually put an actual plan or architectural designs in front of people. Like, this is what we're doing, and that just seems like good business to me. And especially after you've had donors who have gone beyond what would happen in most places to have that facility that just went up go up, with the fundraising they had there. So it would have been, I don't know, it was always a big ask to take on that next big project right after that project. at a time where you haven't been to a bowl game since 2016. So some of this to me is just common sense. It's like, yeah, you think you've got the right guy as a football coach. I think all of us on this show think that, actually.
Yeah.
Let's give it a few years, see if they can get that going, and you do some things that help amenities wise in the meantime, and then hopefully you can figure out how to take on some of those bigger projects in phases. That makes a lot of sense to me.
VC, let me ask you this only because I think you're extremely bright. Relative to like the off-season momentum, what's going on with the stadium, television contracts, you're talking about unionizing college athletics. How important do you think this season is in just year 2 to be successful?
I think it's a big deal in the sense that fans, I think most fans I talk to really believe in how Rhule's building it.
Yeah, 100%.
But they just like everything they hear about it, and it's more than just like that fake, that false hope or anything like that. It's like they see like how they practice, and it reminds them of another time, but also it's not all about the past. It's just like, it's real to this coaching staff. Like, hey, we want to get all these guys on the field, getting them reps and all this stuff. And they hear that, and they hear how recruits speak about like this coaching staff and how genuine they are. And I think it all computes to them as this could be the real deal. We've seen this guy. He's built programs in the past before, and he's happened to do it in years 2 and 3, specifically where he's made big jumps. I just think we're at a point where it's been so long without that bowl game that people now, it's like, okay, give me that at least 7 or 8, right? Give me that win total that I can say, okay, my faith is right here. Because let's be honest, if in early December we're talking about like a 5-7 season again, the whole tenor around Matt Rhule and everything is going to change. Like whatever gets said next off season, and even if it's the same stuff, and even if you still believe, yeah, they can build it, it's not going to strike quite the same way if they have the exact same record this year as they had last year. It just won't. Like that, you have to have that point where people say, okay, I see it in the win total too, and he's backing up exactly what I thought was going to happen. It's real. Let's go. And so I think that's why it's a big deal.
We're talking with Brian Christopherson, Husker 24/7. BC, kind of along those lines, like it seems like, at least to me, and maybe this is just me personally, it seems like Nebraskans are more invested in the success or the potential success of Matt Rhule because of the way he's doing it. Like, I didn't take it personally when Scott Frost failed because I didn't believe in what was happening. I feel like I would take it really personally because I believe in the way he's doing things. I feel like I would take it really personally if Matt Rhule wasn't able to get it done for some reason. Does that make sense?
It does, actually. I think he's done a better job. It's odd in a way. Scott obviously is a native son. I'm not here to pick at old scabs or anything, but after a couple of years there, it was beyond the winning. There was a little bit of a lack of connection, I felt, with even his own state and the fans here with a few things. And I feel like Matt Rhule has had a gift for, being out in the public and just like feeling like I want to be here. My family wants to be here. My wife's opening up a business here, and we moved into Waverly, and his son's coming to school here. And it's just like people see all this and they're like, I like this guy. Like he's not here just at a stoplight to stop for a few seconds and move on. It feels real to them that he's going to be around a while and wants to build it the right way. And I think they like the way that he embraces former players like nobody's business from what I've seen. He embraces Coach Osborne and Coach Solich, and Coach Solich, like he was huge in that. Like Trev did his part too. I want to give him credit, but he was a big deal, Coach Rhule, and in talking to Coach Solich, and I think making him comfortable even in coming back. So a lot of that stuff people see and they add it all up and they say, I like everything I hear. Now let's go win some games. And I think that this staff would say that's fair. Let's do that. That's the plan. And I like that they don't run from those expectations.
I go back to something he said a couple weekends ago, and he was dead serious. We were sitting at the table, and it was kind of, some serious conversations just about life and family and stuff. And he said, the one thing that he wishes people kind of understood is how much he actually loves it here. And like he hit the table, he said, I love it here. And he gave like 6 or 7 examples of why he does. And he says, nobody wants to talk about that, though, because they're always trying to put limits and expectations on things. But what they don't factor in is how important it is to me. And I, given the context of the conversation, I don't think, I think I could probably tell if he was just saying that for effect. Like, it was fairly passionate. And you know what? I don't know anybody that really ever talks about it from that angle because we're never sure, right? Like, we can't defend, like, we can't say how much somebody loves something because you don't really know because it's their feelings, right? But to hear him say it as much as he did, I just get the sense I think we kind of undersell like how much he enjoys it.
Yeah, that's probably true.
But it's hard for us. Like, who's going to come out and you're not going to have 500 words or like why Coach Rule loves Nebraska, right? Like, he'd have to he'd have to tell you that.
I mean, I do think it was huge that I don't remember if it was a Monday or Tuesday where Rule spoke for the first time at the mic after Trev Alberts had left. And you remember those days. There was some anger. There's a lot of confusion about like what happened. And I think that was a really pivotal moment when we're this whole discussion we're having today. Like, it felt like Nebraska needed someone to be a real leader in that moment, and nobody could do it more than the football coach. And he went up and he gave that like 10 and 11 minute talk before he even answered a question. And he sort of within there spoke on what you are talking about, Damon, and that like he spoke of his wife starting a business and all this stuff. Like, I'm here. This is my place, basically. And I think that meant a lot in that moment. And that goes back to the earlier questions we were talking about. I just think that's why people do feel kind of invested in him, and they like what he's about, the cut of his cloth, and feels like it's genuine. And now it's just like, I think there's that like, let's get this, because we feel like you got a guy that really cares, and we care, and let's make it happen together. And so that's why this season's so big.
It's Brian Christopherson, Husker 24/7. Great stuff as always, BC. We'll talk to you again next week.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, B. That's Brian Christopherson, Husker 24/7. More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We're halfway through the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage and reminding you, go to teamjackfoundation.org to get involved with Team Jack. You can donate directly to the cause right on the website. You can see what events they've got coming up, and you can see what projects they're currently funding with the over $12 million to date and counting that you've all helped them raise. It's a simple goal, but not an easy one. Cure childhood brain cancer. And in the meantime, try and find better treatments on the way to that cure. Go to teamjackfoundation.org to get involved. DB, you asked Brian a question there.
I did?
It wasn't a question, it was a comment, but now I have a question based on that comment. So I got a little confused there. You had a comment, I have a question.
I try not to ask a lot of questions. That's a lie.
Sorry,
what are you laughing at?
I just had Kanye going through my head.
Hey, it's amazing how when weird stuff happens in the music world, like how guys like Kanye almost become non-existent.
Right?
Yay!
I'm talking about pre-Kardashian Kanye is what I was talking about.
And I could understand why it might be hard to
I'm just gonna keep going. You can keep singing, it's fine.
That thing went.
You mentioned to BC how this comment that Coach Rule talked about, how much he loves it here.
Yeah.
And you would imagine that isn't. I think it's more rare than we appreciate. Because then I started thinking, I was like, okay, who's the last Nebraska coach that loved it here? Like, loved being here, loved the job, loved the people.
I would say Frank, Coach Solich.
And not by the end, probably.
Yeah, but see, that's different.
Oh, I know.
Okay, because, yeah, I mean, but you don't really, if you're in love, you don't really, yes, you can fall out of love.
No, but he was hurt by the end.
No question.
Yeah.
No question.
Not that he didn't love it here anymore.
But so here's the thing that I think, and I don't, well, hopefully it's not put to the test, but one of the things that's interesting about Coach Rule is he has this uncanny ability to eat the meat and spit out the bones.
Yeah, take the good and leave the bad.
Yep. And he doesn't allow it to, like, he can parse through it.
It's a perspective thing, right?
Well, I'll give you a good example. Trev. Just he and I, this was, I don't know, this is during one of the spring practices. We're over by the garage in the weight room, and we're just talking. And he said, we get so attached to things, and we're so afraid to let go that we don't enjoy what it is in the moment. He said, like Trev, for instance, did a lot of good things, but it's a transactional world. Things happen. I can't get attached to stuff. That's why I said at the press conference, he'll always be a friend. I consider him this. I consider him that. But I'm not mad. I understand people have to do what's best for them, and we move on. And he was so matter of fact about it that I was like, you know what? What's the practical application of, and then insert the blank. So even if it were to go south, he can't take back the way that like the fans made him feel before it went whatever.
Yeah.
You can't unknow that. You can't unknow the joy that your daughters have at their school because their school is so invested in them. You can't take back the fact that Brant wants to be here so bad because of the people here. You can't take back the fact that, how his wife's been treated, how he's been received. Like, they're in there. You don't get to say, yeah, but that doesn't really happen. And he's better at that than most. Because what we try, what people that aren't as, what's the word? That aren't as, maybe thought-provoking or don't have that kind of depth, we will compartmentalize. We'll find ways to fuel how we think we should feel when something devastating happens. So we'll just look at the negatives.
Yeah, it's the confirmation bias, right?
Right?
You go
It's
back
like
and see what you want to see.
You look at all the bad stuff. Well, they did this and they did that. Well, I'm glad it's but you can't fool yourself. My buddy Aaron's always talking about the man in the mirror. The poem. It's a Dr. Lucas thing too for the district. So I think the more honest we are with ourselves real time when things like that, like you can take the good and you can acknowledge the bad. It doesn't mean that the good never happened.
Yeah.
So I think when you have the ability to do that, like, the love is the love. If you truly loved it. Like if you, and I don't mean like, and I get into this probably twice a year about the different types of love. I'm talking about the agape love, like the unconditional, not the phileo, or, brotherly love, or like eros, like erotic type love. I'm talking about like, doesn't matter. I'm
like
in,
ride or die.
Unconditional.
Yeah.
Like that's stuff that it doesn't go away. And, it's like, when I text him, or we were having a conversation about the thank you notes, right? So when we got back from Lincoln, like from
the official visit.
Yeah. Was it Tuesday?
Yeah.
there were all the mailbox was stuffed. It was all these letters, handwritten letters. It was Zoe, Micah. I don't think they included maybe Caleb. Yeah, Caleb had his own pile. They were all individual from the staff about saying thank you for our time and this, that, and the other. And so I told him, it's pretty cool. Like that, expecting that quick turnaround wasn't really necessary. And he said, that shouldn't be that spectacular. There's a way to do things and there's a way to not. And it made me think of all the times we want back padding for things
that's just the right way to do things.
That's just what you're supposed to do. And he's like, hey man, we just forgot how to do things. We forgot how to talk to one another and be appreciative of one another. No big deal. Well, and I just was like, all right.
That goes to the way
put that Dad of the Year trophy that I wanted away just because my kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just and to a man and to a woman, and I'm not kidding you. Ask anybody in my family. It was weird how all the staff and even the other day moving Knucklehead in. It was, the cool thing about it is there's just this unique thing to want to get better when you're around him. Like you want to be better, whether it's, how you leave something, what you're doing, the job, like he almost to a person. And I'm like, are you guys, is this like mind control? No, I'm serious.
Yeah.
Even here's two new guys, one from Upper New York and one was from Eastern Kentucky. One Gus hired, one Coach, Sean Patton hired, or Coach Rule. And they both said the same thing. They've been there for a month. Well, I'm the new guy, right? And I just ask him about, me. I'm asking. I want.
You want to know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, let me ask the new guy.
Might as well, right?
Right. And they
haven't been indoctrinated yet.
Everybody says the same thing. Ask Jay Terry, ask the equipment guys. Like you just. You want to do right and do better because I think you think that that's what they'll do for you.
Yeah,
that's the sense that I get.
That's where the trust comes in, right? When you have a level of trust that that like somebody will do for you, and maybe it shouldn't be that way. And this makes it sound transactional. I don't think it is, but it's like when you trust that somebody's got your back, then the lengths you're willing to go for that person are almost endless.
Yeah. And there's still this level of listen, it's not always super myopic, he's like, listen, sometimes want to like you have to have a certain baseline.
Yeah, sometimes it's not enough.
Right?
A lot of people want to.
Yeah, he's like, listen, I wanted to be the starting middle linebacker. Nobody wanted to be the starting middle linebacker for Penn State more than I did, but trust me.
Yeah.
I wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so there's reality to it too. But there's just something when people are honest enough to give those assessments because they care.
Well, and that's the self-awareness thing we talk about all the time, right? And you touched on something there that I want to get to in the next segment about not needing a back pat for doing the right thing. But I think there's a fine line there between encouraging behavior and enabling mediocrity.
Yeah.
And we can get into that next year on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We're wrapping up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. We were getting into this conversation about the kind of the little things that Coach Rule was doing and how, he says, at some point we kind of lost how to do things the right way. And I get that, I do. But I think there's a fine line because I get, I had a teacher in high school. She was my Latin teacher, one of my favorite teachers. And she goes,
"That's right, Ravi Lulla, big Latin guy."
I am a big Latin guy. Not like Latin American, though, like Latin, the language. Some people get confused. I was
vibing.
I'm kind of an ambiguous shade of brown, so not everybody knows.
Hey, what are you?
I get that a lot.
It's annoying. I get it.
What? It's like, I don't know. I'm just a guy. And I like it. But there was no. I'm just a guy.
Oh, my bad.
That's a different song.
My bad. You caught that.
I did.
Well done.
I was like, where did that go? Oh, I got it.
Yeah. You're getting better. I'm quick, man.
I'm trying day by day. It can't be beat, won't be beat.
Yeah, right.
My Latin teacher, shout out Miss Colander if she's listening. She would always tell us, you don't get points for not sucking, right? You don't get points for just being better than bad, right? She's like, hey, like that's the standard, right? This is where you got to get to. You go above the standard, then you start getting brownie points, right?
Yeah.
You don't get points for not sucking.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what Coach Rule's talking about. Like, you don't get points for just doing what you're supposed to do.
Uh-huh.
But
to me, that sounds soft.
If you're coming from a place where that's not how things are done,
yeah, you have to. Yeah,
there has to be some positive reinforcement.
I understand. Like you got to coach. So the standard is the standard.
But you got to meet people where they are.
The patience
yes.
and the manner in which you get there is different, right? James Williams is going to be different than Caleb Benning, right? Or Roger Gradney is going to be different than Vincent Shavers.
Dylan Royale is going to be different than Heinrich Harburg,
right?
Like you have to go where they are.
Yeah, but
first
the standard is the standard, and I saw it firsthand, right? I'm 100% tracking with you because, I just remember when Betts graduated or got out, he passed 21 hours, and they were like these, it's like just joy, right? Like, hey, you did it. Right, that's what's one phase. It's the building block. It's the building block. It's the building block. And I remember, Coach Rule was. They were all happy, and it was, hey, now we're on to the next phase of life. Let's keep building. And I just remember he's saying it in love, like, hey man, we're proud of you. Let's go get the next one.
Yeah,
right.
Because they get excited about the build, like the momentum, right?
Like a coach or a teacher would.
Like you can't just sit there and be like, hey.
Right? And Zay was like,
it's exciting.
Huh, there's more?
Yeah. There's always more, though.
Man, I don't know about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was where the rub was.
But if you want to get better, there's always more.
Right.
Always.
But I'm just saying, to your point.
Yes.
To your point, it depends on how far and where you're coming from,
and depends on how far you want to go, right?
Yeah, and you also have to be on the same page too of what the expectation level is, because I think that's the key.
Because there's a point where
if you start talking into like general goals versus being the best version of yourself, sometimes the best version, it's amazing. This isn't just sports, but in sports you see it a lot. You ever know people that like self-sabotage?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because they don't want to be held responsible.
Yeah.
Those
they don't want to have to hold themselves responsible.
See, those are the people that like...
I used to do that. I know.
So you ever play with anybody that like won't lay out for a ball or it's not because they're not afraid or dive on the floor for a loose ball, because that means it, like if they do it once, they know that you may be... They'd have to do that all the time.
Yeah, they don't
because then you know that they're capable. And if they don't do that, then they can keep saying, "Oh, I know there's more in there."
Yeah.
Oh, I know there's more in there.
Well, it's the thing that I would do was I would never try hard at anything, right? Because I knew it was a fear of failure for me. Because I knew if I didn't try my hardest, I always had the built-in excuse that I was like, I wasn't going that hard.
Yeah.
No matter what it was.
Oh yeah.
Whether it was school, sports, whatever, because I could always come.
You realize that's a real thing at the collegiate level too, and not as much in the pros, because you've learned to.
It took me till I was 30. Yeah. I mean, like it took me a long time.
Listen, that is 100% a real thing,
because I always had the excuse that I could say I always had a built-in, because here was my problem, right? Is I equated failure in an endeavor with failure as a person, right? You have to be able to separate failure in a task versus being a bad person.
Yeah.
I equated, hey, I failed at this one thing, I'm a bad person. Until I could separate those two things and I could deal with failure in a way that didn't lead me down this existential crisis of who I was as a human being, I was self-sabotaging because I needed the excuse. The excuse to me was more important than winning. It was more important than getting what I wanted.
I'm telling you, that's a real legitimate thing about how people compete.
Because
does that sound crazy, Shane? Are you listening? I'm telling you, there's probably people in Lincoln. That's a real thing.
Because the scariest thing in the world is...
Oh, man, you mean I got to do this every day?
That's part of it. That's part of it.
Oh, shoot. Now you guys are going to be watching me?
But here's the other thing. The scary thing to me wasn't, I have to try this hard every day. The scary thing to me was, if I try my hardest, and then I still fail, I know I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
Whereas
You ever seen kids intentionally not be smart in school?
You're looking at one.
Yeah, well, it happens in
smart kid, bad student.
Happens in our community quite a bit.
Really bad student. Really smart guy, really bad student. Because if I was trying my hardest and I got a B, then it was, oh, you're actually not good enough.
Hasn't a lot of that faded out though?
Describing why I like him, and this is amazing. How about the irony of my thought process and all the conversations I've had about Tommy Hill? That's the first DB that's investing in my kid.
Yeah.
Just think about that for a second.
Yeah.
You kind of sound like you're talking about T Hill a little bit.
I mean, it was me through 30 years of my life. That's who I was.
A little bit like Michael Booker Jr.
Yeah.
Gifted. I wish I could spend some time with him. He's a great kid. But anyway, I'm going down. You talk about physical freak. I'm telling you, MBJ is a dude. He made a play in the spring game, and we were like, dang. Like, remember when I told you, like, that dude is capable.
Yeah.
But it's his mindset, though. Right? Like, he's got to understand, like, I can be great. It's okay for me to be great.
But that's not even, I think it's more important to know it's okay if I'm not. Like, if you give everything you've got.
So, but I think that part of it is the first part you're talking about, where you said there's a big difference between what and what?
Between positive reinforcement and enabling mediocrity.
That's enabling mediocrity.
No, hold on. I don't think it is, right? Because I think you can preach, hey, maximum effort, maximize everything you've got in you. And if the best you are is a really good practice team player.
Well, the safe way to say that is to just be the best version of yourself, right? You got any more in there?
But the key is, the trick is, psychologically, for me at least, was the best version of yourself is good enough.
Is good enough, yeah.
That's where I mean, like, not being great.
And I get it, because we don't really get into that as much as I'll say, and this is coaching real time on the fly. And all coaches, they have their own way of pulling the most out of somebody, and for everybody it's different. But hey, did you leave it out there? Are you exhausted? Are you even spent? Is there any more in there? Like, whatever those words are, I don't typically get to and that's good enough part on the day-to-day.
I think that's what some kids need, though.
Yeah, and you have to know your audience.
Yeah,
you do have KYAs. Like I like to say,
Chief Borders is a great example here, right? He gave everything he had to Nebraska on the field, it seems like culturally, like you hear Matt Rule talk about Chief Borders, and he loves that guy, and that guy loves Coach Rule and Nebraska and his family and the whole thing, right? Chief Borders didn't seem like he was going to be good enough to play a huge part in Nebraska's defense this year.
So
is that fair?
Yeah, but yeah. Go ahead.
So my point is, Chief Borders didn't fail, but Coach Rule gave him permission to understand that while his best may not be good enough to get on the field and be great at Nebraska,
you're going to get a lot of that.
Which is that's what's important.
That you're going to okay, I'm with you.
Because in order to maximize as a human being, you have to understand that if I don't get to X spot, if Matt Rule doesn't get
you're not going to carry 130 guys. That's going to be important, because that's the whole crux of the program.
Yeah. Right.
That's the whole crux of his culture.
But like, Matt Rule has to understand that if he maximizes who he is as a football player and never becomes the starting linebacker at Penn State, he needs to find a way to still be okay as a person.
You know what's interesting about that is Coach Blaine used to talk about this a lot, about like keeping guys around that weren't contributing and stuff like that. And he used to have these things that he would go by where they're, they still going to class, or they at least trying in the weight room, or they may never play it down of Division I football.
They're culture setters.
But are they maximizing their own output? And that was good enough for him. And people used to get so mad that he was that he wasn't processing guys out. And it's like, he's like,
Those guys are good for the program.
He's like, I don't know if I'll ever be that guy.
Yeah. And you don't have to be, I don't think.
You know, that's interesting.
We've got Mitch Sherman coming up next.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're also on KFOR in Lincoln for this third hour, and we are brought to you by Union Omaha. Go to unionomaha.com to get tickets. Their next home match is a week from today, 5/29, and it is their One Means All Community Night presented by Bellevue University. They'll have education-focused exhibits on the concourse as well as the mascot, Brutus, who will probably be tag teaming with the other mascot, Hoot, for some fun stuff. They will get you out there a week from today. Go to unionomaha.com for tickets and more details. Joining us now is Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. Mitch, how are you this morning?
I am doing well. How are you guys doing? I'm a little bit sad that I can't see you this morning, but
are you on the move, Mitch?
Yeah, I'm headed down to the Memorial Stadium area to go interview some recruiting people here.
Oh, I forgot those guys are all made available.
Yeah, this is like I don't know what to do with myself. We're getting interviews through May and into June, and we're going to talk to Vince Ginta and Keith Williams, and actually I think Keith might be out of town, but Vince Ginta and Ryan Callahan and that whole group.
Unbelievable. I'm not going to tear up, but I'm just telling you, Mitch, and I've said this on the show for probably as long, I know, right? As long as I've been back, those guys are so underappreciated in terms of and it's not underappreciated because we don't think they're good at what they do. They're underappreciated because we don't know what they do.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
the fact that they're even being made available is, number one, is incredible because Ryan Callahan is a closet genius. He is one of by far the smartest. What's allowable, what isn't. Like his compliance knowledge is through the roof. And then you get guys like Ginta, who doesn't even care who gets the credit. He's such a grinder. Like he gives hugs. You okay? I want to check on this. What's going on with this schedule? Is there anything I can get? The Troy Vincent Juniors are they got some guys that. TVJ's there. The nicest guy.
Vincent will be there. We got Avery Gossett will be there today. So there's 5 or 6 of them.
She's my very own babysitter, Mitch. So and as you know, I'm not very smart, so she makes sure that I know where I'm supposed to be. Like that is so cool. See, that's the kind of stuff.
Oh,
go ahead.
She's your babysitter. I thought maybe you had employed her to babysit somebody that you needed to keep an eye on.
No.
Okay, all right, I got you.
No. Like that. So that's the kind of stuff we've been talking about this morning, Mitch. And this is right in your wheelhouse because you're a deep thinker. And I was just talking about how they do all these little things that they think is like normal, but we think it's like, wow, you thought of that, you thought of that. You know, for instance, they all wrote letters to everybody that was on the visit. You know, Micah got them, Zoe got them. Zoe's 5, right? They wrote her letters, thank yous. And I said to Coach Rule, I said, yeah, that's pretty cool, and appreciate that. And he's like, we shouldn't get back pats for things that we should do. We got a lot of staff that works hard. It's just part of kind of what we do. He did kind of say, but I appreciate it. But along those lines, it's like he knows giving the opportunity, like they not earned the right. What's the term I'm looking for? Where he makes them available because they're really good at what they do. You know what I mean? It's like he's not forgetting about those guys in this whole great big machine of what's going on. Like they're really the backbone of what's going on, in my opinion.
Right. I mean, it entirely makes sense to give credit to your staff. And Rule, he talks about that, and he praises his assistant coaches and goes out of his way to make sure that they receive exposure and that there's transparency in the program. But I think it goes to even another level when he then allows them to, these behind the scenes players, starting a few weeks ago with Sean Patton and Susan Elza, who are at the top of the administrative food chain. And now we're getting to the recruiting people, and, people read my story about Kristen Coggin, and there will be a day where she's out here in this spot talking to everyone about what she does in nutrition. We've heard through the months at times from Corey Campbell in strength and conditioning, from Mitch Cholowinski in sports science. All of these people are what, as you said, what makes Nebraska football go, what forms the backbone of the organization. I think the thing that Rule does understand is that it isn't necessarily normal for some of these people to go above and beyond in the way that you mentioned, to send a letter to a 5-year-old sister of a player, or a visitor. That's hey, 5-year-olds don't get mail a lot, so that's pretty cool. But but my 13-year-old doesn't get mail too often. When he gets something in the mail, that's a big moment.
Yeah.
But they know, like, they may act, they do, I think they do act like, hey, this is expected, this is what we should do. You don't need to thank us for things that make sense. But I think they do recognize that, like, this stuff isn't happening everywhere, and it's a way for Nebraska to stand out. In addition to doing the right thing and just being good people to the players and families that they get so much from, it's also something that makes them stand out.
Mitch, I'm wondering, because we say this a lot of, Coach Rule doesn't care who gets the credit, the whole staff doesn't care who gets the credit, but it also seems like he wants everyone to get the credit. Like, can both of these things be true at the same time?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that it's so much he doesn't care who gets the credit. He just doesn't want to get all the credit himself. He doesn't want everyone who's at the top of the org chart to receive all the credit, because I think they all recognize that they can't do their jobs without this big staff who are working alongside them. So, I think that's one way to say it. Like, we don't care who gets the credit. You might hear that from some players too, like some of the older players will say that, but actually they do care who gets it, and what they want is for it to be spread throughout everyone in the organization.
Mitch, we were kind of talking earlier about, making sure that you're still doing all the little things, but this rapidly changing college football and monetary landscape is like a real thing. And obviously South Stadium is a big part of it. What Penn State's doing is part of it, but kind of not buried, but kind of flew under the radar is, Big 12 has already got the loose framework of what's going to go on with the sharing of revenues in college. When you're looking at this landscape, why do you think they could do this so quickly? And I get it. It was being worked on behind the scenes, but why didn't this precede the NIL stuff? Was the NIL stuff, was it due to pressure? They had to just get something out there for name, image, and likeness, or was it just how it was brought to the court cases?
You're asking why did NIL happen before all of this?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. I think NIL had to be the first step, because for decades the NCAA was unbending, unrelenting in its opposition to compensating players, and that was a workaround. NIL was a workaround, and it was a way that it could be allowed. And even then, it wasn't like the NCAA was just going to allow it. Like, there had to be court cases won to allow NIL to even exist. It was a foot in the door. And then once you got the foot in the door, as we've seen, I don't know that we knew it at that very moment. Maybe some people who were really smart did. But once you got that foot in the door, like, it was just a matter of time before the whole door got kicked down. And now they're not just kicking down the whole door. They're like kicking down the wall that the door is in. And it's all just going all in. If you like it, then it's a great thing. And, I don't know that there's a lot of people out there at this point who are opposed to any of this. It's just, and really, you can't even worry about it from the perspective of, hey, is it even? Is it fair? Because no, it's not. I mean, the big conferences, the power conferences that are voting to approve the settlement this week, or the structure of the very beginning of a settlement in the House versus NCAA case, which is, by the way, like, you talk about things flying under the radar. I know there's a lot of people talking about this court case right now, but I don't think there's as many people talking about it and understanding it and like trying to figure out what it means and what it is as should be, because this is like, up there with the biggest things that have ever happened in the history of college sports.
Yeah.
Like we're about to go into a place where like they have payrolls and there's $20 million a year at schools like Nebraska that are set aside to share revenue with football players and basketball players and soccer players. So this is massive. It's like the story of the year. And I think because it's like May and it's a quiet time, we have big stories that happen all the time in college sports, whether it's conference realignment or other court cases. NIL of course has been landscape changing. This is the biggest one yet. And it's happening in front of our eyes.
We're talking to Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. Mitch, maybe I'm drawing an unnecessary parallel here, but this conversation with NIL and what should have happened when and all of that kind of reminds me of the Memorial Stadium conversation, where you're trying so hard, and I mean the general you is trying so hard to retool the sport under the existing infrastructure, right? The NCAA and whatever else exists, that they're almost seemingly make it harder on themselves than if they had just started from scratch and built it new. Like, is there any point of, and it kind of seems like we are heading that way, maybe, where college football breaks off from the NCAA? Like, is that where you think this ends up going?
Yeah, I think in one way or another, yes, we're getting to that point where and we've been headed in this direction for a long time, but we're now taking another big step to get to that place where the power conference football programs are in such a different stratosphere from everyone else who plays the sport and everyone else who competes in college sports, that different rules apply. And again, it's just like, how do you classify it? Like, Are they still under the same umbrella? Is it still college sports, or is this just something else that's like another version of pro sports? And ultimately it's the latter. It's just like, okay, well, there's Nebraska and Florida State and Texas and Ohio State and USC, whatever. I mean, there's 50 programs, and they're just different. Like they don't do the same thing that like the Omaha Mavericks do. They don't do the same thing that Texas State does. It's just and they're really not competing for the same prize. They're not necessarily playing each other anymore. I do think they break off. What the NCAA's involvement is in all of that, and if there's still like some kind of a figurehead without any power over college football, that remains to be seen if they still exist, or maybe they just govern the sports that are not football. I don't know, but we're several years away, I think, from completely understanding that. But yeah, I mean, it's very clear, and has been clear for a while, but becoming more clear now that college football is going to exist in its own world in the broader environment of college sports.
Hence, we're launching private equity firms for schools, Mitch. I mean, with what Weatherford's doing down in Tampa, a private equity platform for athletics. Does that sound right?
No, I mean, everything sounds crazy until it happens, and that's the road we've been on, since 2019 or so, when NIL started to crop up as a thing, and 21 when it came to be reality. So every little step, now the steps are they're bigger and bigger and bigger. At first it was just you can do a commercial for a restaurant, and then it's like, well, if you can do that, why can't you just tweet out an ad for a car dealership and get $100,000? And then it's, well, why are we really bothering with this? You can get $500,000. I mean, and it's cascading, and it's just on top of itself, and it's a snowball effect. And whatever you want to say now, private equity firm, I hadn't heard that one, but it's
and it's a form, and it's Drew
anymore.
Weatherford too. He's a former the quarterback from Florida State. Like he allegedly, I'm sure there's money to be made, but he's 4 kids.
There are no shocking developments anymore in the way that different groups are getting creative with how to make money and how to make money for the players. And that's the door we opened. As to go back, a few minutes, that's the door we opened with NIL. And ultimately it's good. It's just chaos at this stage.
Mitch, you think there's going to be, and this is kind of, I know you said you're not super familiar with the private equity thing, but this is sort of a microcosm of the bigger picture. Do you think we're going to see sort of the collapse of certain either football programs or athletic departments because they're trying so hard to keep up that they mortgage their future and that bet just does not pay off?
Yeah, I think so. Some are just going to have to agree to take it down another level. And even if, that doesn't you're not safe just because you're in one of these big conferences that make a lot of money off of multimedia. That helps. And that's like how you can stay afloat. But at some point, it's the revenue sources have to come, they have to be widespread. And, there's a lot of programs that are semi-immune to that, like the big powerful programs that have huge followings and fill their stadiums. Like they're safe, but there's a number of schools even within the Power Five, I think, that are going to have to take a hard look, if not right away, pretty soon when the money starts flowing, and understand hey, we can't compete. We can't, our payroll is, it just can't, it can't get to the level that it is for the programs that are on our schedule. And I mean, we've already seen that on some level with the way that a school like, say, Cal or Boston College or Wake Forest, tries to keep up, and they just can't do it. Well, it's going to get even more difficult. Even though there's more money coming in from the TV networks, everyone's getting it. And then so the separator, the determining factor is going to be okay, so what are your other sources of revenue? And if Ohio State has this and, Iowa State has this over here, and they look nothing like each other, then, one of those schools is eventually not going to be able to compete because the stakes are so high.
So will it be important to win titles like at Stanford with all your sports if your sports aren't generating any revenue? That's pretty much going to go by the wayside too. I'm guessing, as a way that we look at how athletic departments function. Maybe it's not so much about being good. It's going to be interesting, right? Or non-factor, do you think?
Yeah, I don't know what the model will be for a school like Stanford, that has prided itself for decades on just being great at everything, and they've had some years at football, but so I don't want to say great at everything other than football, but the consistency at a school like Stanford is in the non-revenue sports. And I don't know what the future for that's going to be. Maybe that, like we said a minute ago, maybe that'll all just be separate, and they'll find a way for everything there to, I hope they do, for everything there to be able to continue to thrive. And
if you're in the Big 12, though, I guess it would depend on the conference. Because if I'm in the Big 12, I want Kansas back. I want that as a basketball conference, as a revenue generator.
Sure.
Right. So it's going to be
sure. Yeah, we just don't know what the model is going to be to make that work. People are going to work. People are going to go to work on that. And basketball's in a weird spot because it's a revenue generator, but it's not in the same class as football. So, is basketball like football, or is basketball like wrestling? It seems more like football, but as far as the money that it's bringing in, it's probably on the other side of it. So Kansas basketball is not going anywhere, and there's still going to be big time college basketball. It just remains to be seen, how it's, how it looks.
Mitch, is the kind of most frustrating thing about this the ambiguity about everything else? Because I know college football gets all the headlines, right? But people really care about college basketball. Obviously, as you get down the line on the sports,
how about volleyball? If it's good,
volleyball is a super interesting one, right? Because obviously it's a huge thing throughout a lot of the country, but doesn't generate the revenue. Like that, volleyball really is closer to wrestling than it is to football in terms of money. Like there's going to be some unintended consequences here that people are really going to be unhappy about down the line.
Yeah, I mean, there's always unintended consequences with whatever kind of big steps you take, and this one is right. It's the evolution of college sports has more unintended consequences than intended consequences. Volleyball is really interesting because of its growth professionally in the United States too, and it's booming. It's booming there. Not just here in Omaha, but
so are the viewership numbers in college too. I mean, it's coinciding.
Right. It's a booming sport, and then you introduce some of these changes that are happening across the board for any sport that's not football, and it doesn't really jive. Like it does, like the changes that are coming to college sports don't necessarily mesh very well with the increasing popularity for that sport. So I don't, I'm not sure how that all comes together.
Mitch, we appreciate the time as always, and look forward to your.
I can't wait to see all the. I'm pretty excited, Mitch. I am. Like that changed my mood. I'm glad those folks are made available, and folks like yourself get a chance to pick their brain because you'll know all the good questions to ask.
Cool. All right, we'll give it about 10 minutes, and the tweets will start flowing, I'm sure.
There we go.
Let's go.
We appreciate it, Mitch. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Mitch.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I think
that's awesome.
I do love that they're going to be made available. But
how long have we been talking about these people?
Since you came back, at least.
Yeah, I said outside of the big three, I named the 5 that are the most important.
Yep,
right there. I am pumped.
Campbell, Coggins.
Well, so I put Elza, Padden, and Coggins separate
in their own deal.
Yep,
their own category.
And then I would always talk about Callahan, Williams, Ginta.
Yep.
And
where do you put Corey Campbell? Because he's kind of his own deal.
He's his own deal.
Okay.
He maybe
because he's
I won't rank him, but
important.
his presentation his staff is huge.
Mm-hmm. Has to be.
That's what he said.
To do that right, has to be.
And he was like, "Look, man, I'm not one of those guys that is so paranoid that I don't." He said, "I want as many eyes on our athletes as possible, so it doesn't always have to be me." I was like, most people in your field are not like that.
Yeah, it seems like the people that are the best at their job have the least amount of paranoia.
But that behavior is not
typical.
No, most of those guys and gals feel threatened.
They feel threatened, or they feel like
you're going to take my stuff.
They got the secret sauce and nobody else does.
Yeah.
Guess what?
That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
Let's go.
We'll have more here on this private equity thing because if this comes to fruition, and I feel like it's only a matter of time, there's going to be problems.
Yeah.
We've got more. Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage and reminding you to get out to Warhorse Sportsbook either at the casino in Lincoln or at Horseman's Park in Omaha. There is plenty to bet on, and it is the best place in Nebraska to place your sports bets. I know a lot of you are like me. You want to keep your money on this side of the river. Warhorse Sportsbook is the best place to do that, whether it's NHL, whether you're watching the playoffs last night and you're like, I think Boston's a little fraudulent. Maybe you want to put a little money on Indiana. You can do that at Warhorse Sportsbook, where you can place bets on nearly every major sporting event. Go to warhorsecasino.com/sportsbook for a full list of details and house rules. That's Warhorse Sportsbook. No bets, no glory. Want to get back into this.
Hey, can I ask one question?
No.
Just real quick. They were up 14 games. Boston was by the end of the season. How can they not be fraudulent?
Because the East is terrible.
Is that what it is?
The East is bad.
Okay. All right.
I'm not going to say fraudulent, but I mean, they definitely have. I think their record. I think their record is misleading, but I don't think they're fraudulent.
That is quite a gap there. You don't see that too often.
No,
it's inflated.
It's a good basketball team. They got a lot of flaws, I think.
They got a lot of flaws. I think their star might be one of the biggest flaws in the way he's viewed by people. I don't know. We'll see. But if you don't like him, you can go bet on Indiana.
I wonder what the line is going to be.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's out. I haven't
looked at it yet for the next game, but it'll be interesting. I'm just saying, for as bad as Indiana played, that game was in overtime.
What would you think Minnesota and Dallas is?
I would guess. I don't know. I think maybe Dallas by 2.
It's in Minnesota. Higher seed.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
Minnesota by 4.
By 4?
There's some 4.5s out there too. The Celtics Pacers line is 9.
Who's more questionable, Ant-Man or Tatum?
That's not Ant. There's nothing questionable about that.
No.
That dude brings it every night. He may not go for 40, but you never question whether that dude's going to show up.
You also never question whether he's got that other part of him. You know?
Yeah.
Like the killer part. It's funny on, Twitter, all the hustle memes where they're like, "Oh, Ant-Man was just playing himself in that movie." You're like, that wasn't acting. He was just being Ant-Man.
And we get Panthers-Rangers tonight too.
Panthers-Rangers tonight.
The eventual Stanley Cup champion, Florida Panthers. I know.
New York Rangers.
I like the Panthers in this series.
Yeah.
You like New York starting at home?
I have an affinity for. So this is dumb because I'm not a huge
hockey guy.
I like because I don't have a rooting interest.
Yeah. You're going big market?
No, I like the places where I feel like it means more.
Oh, I got you.
In hockey.
Yeah.
So I root for the Canadian teams. Yeah. I root for the old school teams like your original Sixes and stuff like that because listen, I'm sure there's some really passionate Florida Panthers fans, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have a hard time believing anyone in Florida cares about hockey as much as anyone in Canada. I just don't buy it.
Except what do they call the people that go to the warm weather places?
Snowbirds?
Yeah. Except the snowbirds from Canada that are in Florida.
Yeah, I think
there are several of those.
Oh, yeah. Well, and it's more from New York, right? So this might be a little bit of a
Buffalo is right next to Toronto.
Yeah. You can go, Detroit, you can go south and end up in Canada.
True. I've gone through the Detroit entry.
Yeah. It's weird.
Not near as user friendly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I tend to root for the northern places, the original places, because I feel like they need it. Yeah, they need it, because I don't have a rooting interest in hockey really. I don't know. I'm just kind of a weirdo free agent guy. I'm just out here.
I think so. You know where I think he's been? I think he just got hired as a varsity coach.
Michigan Lance?
Yeah.
Is that why he's not talking to us anymore?
I think he just got added to the varsity staff.
All right.
I think.
We're down in Florida still?
Yeah, I probably jinxed him.
That's all right. We'll see what happens. Yeah, see, thank you, DB. Have a good day. Love you. One of the greatest drops in our show's history.
Shane snagged it. Well, especially coming from him.
Yeah. Well, he wasn't talking to us. We know that.
Mr. Sensitive.
He wasn't talking to us. It was a side conversation he just happened to be having.
They're in the middle of spring ball.
Are they?
We're just finishing. Yeah.
Down in Florida?
Yeah. Because I know Dom was with Dylan yesterday in Kansas City, and the week before they were just at Dayton spring game in Georgia. I'm God, that would be nice.
Is Dayton going to Buford too?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, he's a Buford guy.
That'll be fun.
It's a big kid.
Yeah. Well, don't worry, Nebraska got that offer out there early, so
good natured too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I was trying to meet Dom and Dylan at the Supernovas game. I didn't have a chance to because I was running around doing other stuff. But I was gonna be like, hey, you don't know me, but you know DB and whatever.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna use working with you to get into all sorts of doors.
Tell you what, man, we the plan was to all be together until Saturday actually unfolded.
Yeah, until Coach Rule threw a wrench in your plans again.
He blamed Coach Coop, so we'll go with Coach Coop. Yeah. Again. Yep. Again, called Saturday morning. Not me. Gone Monday morning.
Yep. That's a quick turnaround.
Say that again.
He might have the shortest gap between graduation and college in history.
He hadn't even graduated. Yeah, you're
like
right.
36 hours.
Yeah, not even.
By the time
Sunday at 2 to.
Not even, yeah. So like 18 hours basically between the time he was graduating high school and was in class.
In school on Monday.
That's what I mean, like in a class.
Yeah.
That's wild. Yeah. That's all right though. One of the other things we talked to Mitch about was this private equity thing.
Drink some salt water to that, Shane.
Man, you and that salt water.
Do you know what I did know?
What's that?
I have strawberries at the bottom.
Oh, so it helps even it out a little bit?
Yeah, because
that salt water nasty, man.
Starting to get to me. But I'm back on the pink Himalayan. I stopped using the table salt.
Yeah, don't do that. That's disgusting.
The Himalayan?
No, the
table salt. Yeah.
Yeah, you get too much, man. I get flashbacks to when I was a kid.
Full disclosure, I'm lazy because the pink Himalayan, I have to use the grinder.
You have to grind it, yeah.
It takes too long.
Come on, man.
It's like another 12 seconds.
What were we just talking about? About not getting pats on the back for doing what you're supposed to?
It's another 12 seconds, so it seems like an eternity.
It's not, though. It's not.
All right.
You just kind of just grind that thing out. You're all right.
That thing wet?
That thing wet?
Nah.
Listen.
What?
You're better than that.
12 seconds?
Come on.
Usually that's all I got. Attention span. I'm talking about my thought process.
That's what I thought you were talking about grinding the salt.
No. Yeah, I am a grinder. That's for sure.
You know, I don't. I can't.
We have parent meetings tonight, by the way.
Football?
Yeah. And then staff meeting tomorrow.
Never stops.
Man, it's unreal.
Never stops.
He's something else.
Well, you know, you gotta stay ready. Stay ready. You don't have to get ready. You know.
According to everybody else, the dynasty's over.
Oh, I thought everybody thought the dynasty was going to continue because you guys are just going to recruit new players.
Wrong school.
Oh,
wrong schools.
That happened somewhere else.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought because it was West Side, you guys.
No, it's a popular misnomer.
You don't just. I thought you guys had like NIL. You don't have a collective over there?
Yeah. Got fake billboards.
I thought you were just.
Stop before you get me to say something I don't want to say.
I thought it was the Warrior Collective. You don't just have.
Yeah.
I thought you just had like a slush fund over there. No,
that'd be nice.
You're not just running like the old SMU playbook over there.
We'd had a couple of those guys that ended up at other schools.
You don't want to say what schools those are?
I got no idea.
Oh, okay.
No. I know their parents know.
Unrelated, North South has a pretty good roster this year.
Dude, they're loaded.
They got some good players.
They're loaded.
Not all of them were started out in that district.
Welcome to the family. No, they're gonna be tough.
A lot of
they're not on our schedule, so I don't have to worry about that unless we get to the playoffs.
The Millard South neighborhoods must have gotten a lot more popular.
Don't let Millard North off the hook now. They've been busy.
Don't worry about it. Everybody wants to live in Millard North, though. It's good neighborhoods.
Welcome to Harvey Oaks.
Listen, I was thinking more Linden Estates, but that's okay.
Who can afford that?
People going to Millard North.
All right, get Behringer on the phone. They're almost out of school. Well, I wonder when they're done. We're done the 24th.
I have no idea.
I know. You would have no idea.
I would have no idea. I don't even know what day.
Somebody let me know when the Millard schools when's their last day.
I don't even recognize what we're doing here. We'll wrap up the show coming up next here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Wrapping up the show here on a Wednesday on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR Lincoln. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. Max chimed in on the YouTube comments. He goes, hasn't college football always been unfair? The difference in resources has never been equal. There's only 25 to 40 teams max that are capable of winning a national championship. And I think that's right to a large extent.
Yeah, I probably
wouldn't push back on that much.
Wouldn't poke too many holes in that.
And we had this conversation before about kind of the history of having won a national championship before. And I think we were talking about basketball. Was having won a national championship before, does that mean you're still capable of winning one now, right? Like Minnesota is a good example of this. They won some national titles back in the 50s. Would you look at that as a team that's still capable of winning national titles now?
No.
Not really, right? Whereas, and maybe this is too close to home, but I look at Nebraska, and yes, it's been 25, 30 years, whatever. And I still look at Nebraska as a place where you can win a national title.
Yeah, I think most people would agree with you.
Michigan was the same way. People act like Michigan didn't go 27 years between titles. And before that, 50.
Yeah.
1948 to 1997, 97 to 2024, 2023, whatever season you want to put it in, right? Like that's.
You want to go back 50 years? You want to go back just 50 years and do a quick rundown
of who won titles?
Yeah.
Texas?
No, like can Florida win a title?
Yes.
Nebraska?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Oklahoma?
Yes.
Michigan?
Yep.
Miami?
Yep.
Florida State?
Yep.
Notre Dame?
Yep.
Ooh, Colorado?
No.
Georgia Tech?
No.
Okay. Auburn?
Yes.
Wondered what you say. Penn State?
Yes.
Tennessee?
Yes.
Ohio State?
Yes.
LSU?
Yes.
USC?
Yes. What? You struggle with USC?
No.
Oh, okay.
I think all the schools in the last 50 years.
Yeah. Why do you go even further back? Because I thought you
Clemson?
Yes.
Yeah. Bama, obviously.
Although I don't know how long Dabo's going to be there, but yes, Clemson in general.
It's usual suspects.
Yeah, it always has been.
There is no. I just was giving some credence to
that was the
Max
last.
11's,
that was like from 90 on,
84
on. So the outlier that you left out there is BYU. That's a no for me.
Yep.
A lot of the teams in the Big 12 are no for me. You know, especially the new teams in the Big 12, Arizona State.
That's funny, because I just put what he just said to the actual teams.
Go further back. You go to the 70s.
It's all the same,
right? Alabama, USC, Texas, Nebraska, Oklahoma. I just named Notre Dame. I just named most of the teams in the 70s that won titles. Like it's always been this way. It's just going to look different, but the same teams for the most part. There's going to be a few that probably fall off, and that's why I brought up the private equity thing with Mitch, because some of these teams that are desperate to either stay or get back to the place where they think they can win national titles are going to make bad decisions financially. Because I'll tell you, anybody who's taken on...
you mean they're just going to be desperate?
Yes. And when you're desperate, you make bad decisions.
Typically.
Because this Drew Weatherford thing, where he's going around with Weatherford Capital and Redbird Capital and offering somewhere in the neighborhood between $50 and $200 million. I'm going off the Yahoo Sports report, just for credit purposes. Is somebody is going to see that and look at it and go, okay, we need that to stay competitive. But here's the problem, right? If it's too good to be true, it probably is.
Yeah.
And
what are you borrowing that at?
What are you borrowing it at? And what comes along with it, right? You think private equity is going to give you $200 million and not want to say in how things go? You think private equity is going to give you...
I don't know what schools would sign up for that, though.
If the ACC schools lose their cases...
Well, FSU's out. So let's go.
Okay, but pick a school. Like North Carolina doesn't want to be there either. Okay?
Yeah, North Carolina's in a weird boat because of basketball, but okay.
They're obviously elite at basketball. They're somewhere. They're a second-tier football team. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay. So North Carolina is a great example. The price tag that we've heard for getting out of the ACC. Let's say the court cases don't go their way. If the court cases go their way, this becomes a moot point, right? Because you can just get out. But let's say the court cases don't go their way. They rule in favor of the ACC and the grant of rights deal. You're looking at $50 to $100 million. That's the number that Florida State put out earlier this year to get out of the ACC.
Mm-hmm.
Where's that money going to come from?
So,
because it was already rumored that Florida State looked into private equity, probably Drew Weatherford.
Yeah, I think that's where
it started.
Yeah, that's where it started. But let me say this: I don't think there'll be enough of those schools around
that are desperate.
Well, I mean, Stanford isn't borrowing $200 million.
Colorado might.
How are they going to recoup their money?
That's what private equity does, right?
No,
no, but that's what I mean. That's why it's a bad idea.
Yeah, so using private, like they take over whatever entity,
yes.
Can't pay back the money.
Strip it for parts.
Yeah.
Sell it off to the highest bidder.
You can't do that with the university.
They'll find a way. You can't do it with the university, but can you do it with the athletic department? Can you do it with pieces of the athletic department? We're going to end up in a whole strange new world of things that we never considered possible before.
It doesn't sound sustainable.
It's not. That's the point of private equity. It's not sustainable.
Maybe you no, I get that, but maybe you only have one or two takers, and that's enough.
Yes, it's not going to be dozens of teams. It's going to be one or two. But here's the problem: is if it works for a team. Let's say it works. Let's say Clemson. Okay. Let's say the deal goes against, or the court cases go against the ACC. Let's say Clemson's like, hey, we need X amount of money from private equity.
You know who I could actually see it working that I think is a little more feasible?
Who?
And Clemson's legit.
Yeah.
Because is Carolina. North Carolina with Mac Brown.
Yeah.
And they have some other really attractive parts to their athletic department
that you can make money off of.
Yeah.
So let's say it's Carolina. Let's say the court case goes against them. They need $50 million to get out of the ACC tomorrow. Okay. The Big Ten's already like, hey, you're AAU. We love you. You're our brand. We're going to take you. But we can't give you a full share for 8 years, whatever the number is, right?
I don't know if revenue sharing will look like that going forward. Full shares.
I don't either, but
because Nebraska's the last really big program that I can remember that didn't get full shares, like at entering the league. Everybody else seems to be getting.
I don't think
shares.
Oregon and Washington are.
Well, it's pretty close.
I thought they were getting half shares for a few years. I might be wrong. I'll have to look it back up.
Yeah.
But I thought they were getting half shares for a few years.
Yeah, these guys are like, I mean, they're coming in much better shape
100%
than Nebraska was.
100%. And like Rutgers.
And I think, what did it take Nebraska? 6 years?
I think 6 full years to get up to. It was in the 6th year they got a full share.
Come on.
Rutgers and Maryland, I think, were in the same spot.
No, Maryland got subsidized. They got money to come over. They were broke.
Well, yeah, and Maryland was broke, which is
weird because you had Under Armour.
You have all the Under Armour. Doesn't make any sense, right? But the question for me is, let's say North Carolina is in this situation. They're a team that could actually make the private equity thing work. The worst thing that could happen to college sports is to have a case study where it works. Because then it's not going to be one or two teams. Because you have a couple teams and it burns them hard, nobody else is going back to that well.
Yeah.
If you have a team early that succeeds with it, then people are like, oh, hey, North Carolina did it.
Like a Kansas State who has enough of the good coaching.
Kansas State, Colorado. Like, Deion has private equity written all over him. All over.
But you have to be capable of managing your newly acquired revenue.
Right.
Like, what are you going to do with that?
Deion's an asset that you can sell off. You can sell off Deion to make your money back.
Well, I tell you, I mean, he has a hard time with, I don't know. He doesn't really, allegedly, right? There's some big, they have some big corporate sponsors that have had a really, really hard time. His own AD can't get him to play nice.
Yeah. But guess what? People are still playing. Right now, at least. That's whether it's Colorado, but there's going to be teams that see if there's a successful case study, it's going to be much, much worse because in general, it's not going to work.
You have to either be really close to winning,
yes,
or have another viable entity within your athletic department.
And most teams don't have that.
Yeah.
And most teams that are going to.
That's why I kind of use Carolina because they wouldn't be too far off.
No.
I mean, Max had good success.
Yeah. And if they get a little boost, they'll be able to, boost their NIL collective a little bit. They'll end up with more revenue getting in the Big Ten or wherever, right? Like North Carolina is a great example. They've got basketball to kind of buoy things a little bit in a way that most schools don't have a super profitable second program. If something like that happens, you're going to see. I
wonder how the net, I wonder what the ACC, the 4-letter network and stuff would say that.
I don't know. Because you're basically going to be putting.
They own the entity. They own the property.
You're basically putting a lien on their future revenue shares. Though. Yeah. That's the point where this starts to get really, really messy. And, I mean.
I just can't see a ton of takers.
Unless you have a successful one early.
I was going to.
That's the scary part for me.
And we didn't get it. We caught Mitch a little off guard. But that was what how many potential candidates would there be?
I don't know. Maybe I'll come up with a list tomorrow. We can go through it because I think there's more potential takers than you think.
We know a guy that's gotten to be pretty successful rehabbing previous things.
Yeah,
and we consider him a genius.
Yeah,
not just our boss.
We'll see. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We'll be back tomorrow with more Hurrdat Sports Radio.
See you. Have a good day. Love you.